Hey guys, welcome back to Gutter Fighting Secrets. Just before we begin, real quick disclaimer that I am not a medical doctor. I do not claim to be. I would consult your physician before doing anything or listening to anybody else's advice. Hope you enjoy the video. Thanks for your time. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Gutter Fighting Secrets Prepping Series. Today we're going to be talking about prepping your medical supplies. Now, obviously, medical supplies and medical stuff in general is a very versatile and highly expansive topic. And the more medical training that you have, the more you can really zero in on exactly what it is that you need. And realizing that my audience, and if you're watching this anyway, you probably have a little bit of medical training already. Maybe you were like me before I did the whole EMT thing. You had some combat casualty care and some basic first aid, CPR, something like that. Or, maybe you don't have any first aid training really at all, but you realize, hey, I got to get with the program here because if the lights go out or if something happens and the EMTs aren't able to come and get me, then I'm going to really need to know how to take care of myself and my family and at least stabilize the situation, which is, what we're really talking about here. You're obviously, unless you're a doctor, not going to be curing anybody, but you are going to be making sure that the life threat to yourself or your patient comes under control, thus buying you more time to get them to proper medical attention. So the first thing we're going to talk about is prior to buying or acquiring a bunch of medical supplies is making sure that you know how to use these said supplies. It's going to do me no good whatsoever if I go out and buy a huge trauma kit with a stethoscope, oral airways, nasal airways, a pulse oximeter, wire splints, all these crazy things if I don't know how to use half that shit. I'd be way better off for half the price going out and buying a basic first aid kit. And to be honest, there's nothing wrong with buying a basic first aid kit providing you know what to get and what extra supplies to stock with it. If that's your level of training, that's your level of training. But what we're talking about right now is there's always room for improvement and there's always room for extra training. That's what forging yourself to be a warrior is constantly learning, training, cross-training in different skills. And medical skills happen to be incredibly important, especially in a situation where medical attention isn't immediately available. It's all about buying yourself more time to get to the proper medical intervention. So the first thing that I'd recommend you do, if you haven't done this already, is go out and grab a basic CPR/AED course. These things sometimes are put on for free. Sometimes you got to pay a little bit of money for them. They're like 2 hours. Go out, take that course. Every year or so, I would recommend doing a refresher course, whether that's in person. You could probably even do it online, but just make sure that your skills are up to snuff. The next thing I would highly recommend is to grab a basic first aid course. Again, you can find these things for free. You don't even have to pay for them. If you do, it's not a lot of money. It takes maybe 2, 3, 4 hours of your time, but you'll walk away with knowledge that's very solid. And if you have to do it online, I understand, but it's much better to go out to a class and get some hands-on training. You're going to learn some really solid stuff in this basic first aid course. What I would personally recommend after that, if you don't plan on continuing your medical training, is going ahead and supplementing what you've learned in your CP or AED course and your basic first aid course with some online learning. Obviously, YouTube is a great resource. I would highly encourage you to use it. When you get some time, watch some videos. There you go. If you do plan on continuing your training, there's kind of 2 routes you can go. Number 1 would be an EMR or first responders course. I believe offhand it's about 80 hours, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, give or take, of really practical stuff. You're going to basically learn in this EMR course everything that an EMT knows as far as the practical skills. I haven't taken the course personally, but when I was in EMT school, I heard a lot about it. From what I understand, it's basically most of what we learn doing the EMT thing, but less tests and less hassle and less medical terminology and more hands-on stuff. Another route you could take, depending on where you live, is to grab a wilderness first aid course. And this is good because it focuses on the assumption that you're going to have to provide first aid without help being immediately available. I haven't personally taken this course, but I hear it's good and I'd like to take it in the future. And I'll definitely give you guys an AAR after action report if I ever do take it. Now, if you really want to go all the way with this, you could always put yourself through EMT school. It's about $1,000 depending on where you live to get your basic EMT. It's a lot of tests, a lot of studying, a lot of terminology. I'll warn you in advance, it's a bitch of a course. But if you're serious about going ahead and really learning your shit when it comes to medical stuff, I guess I'd recommend it. After that, I would also recommend, depending on again where you live, if you can get involved with some kind of volunteer EMT squad or something like that, really keep your skills refreshed and learn practically on actual patients. That would be a very solid option. A while back, I knew this state trooper who was really into prepping, and he would always say, practice as much as you can on other people so that when your family needs you, your skills are polished up for them. I personally agree 100% with that. Now, the next step you can do is, depending on where you live, some states have it, some states don't, is do your EMT advanced. You're going to be able to run an IV, hook up, EKG leads and stuff like that. Like I said, not every state has advanced EMTs. And then obviously after that, if you really want to go all the way and make a career out of it, you can do your paramedic thing, which takes roughly a year, 2 years, just to complete the training. And that's honestly more focused on drug interventions and giving different drugs and stuff to help people out. So I don't know how practical that would really be as far as this type of thing goes. But I did want to mention all that just so you guys know what the options are out there. And obviously there's probably other options. There's plenty of medical courses you can take, prepping medical courses, military, paramilitary medical courses that focus solely on combat medicine. There is TCCC, Tactical Combat Casualty Care, which I took for the fire department I work for, and it's a great course. You learn a lot about treating patients when there's an active shooter and stuff like that. So really, as I said, you're a warrior. If you're watching this, you most likely are. It's all about continuing your education, continuing your training, and never stop learning, never stop training. Continue. That way, when you do need it, when you are called upon, that you'll be ready for it and you'll be able to handle that situation. Nobody ever became good at something from fucking sitting on their ass. Now, with all that being said, I'm going to be kind of talking here to the audience as if, you've had your basic first aid and all that, and you kind of have an understanding of how to treat patients. But obviously, if you are a medical professional, then you're going to be kind of ahead of the game here. That's not to say you won't find anything good in this video. That's just saying you're going to be more ahead of the game and probably know how to prepare your medical supplies a little bit better than your average Joe. Now, I was watching a video a while back on YouTube, and I forget who the guy was. If I could remember, I would definitely give him some credit. But he was saying the nice thing about medical supplies and stockpiling or keeping medical supplies on hand is, generally speaking, they're pretty cheap. You're definitely going to be able to build a solid medical pack, medical closet, medical supply a lot cheaper than if you're trying to, stock your shelves with food or water or, definitely more cheaper than trying to, stock your safe with some sweet ARs and shit like that. Now, what should I put into my medical supply? I would recommend a couple of different types of first aid kits. Now, when I say a couple of different types of first aid kits, I mean one for boo-boos and, blisters and stuff like that, Band-Aids and whatever. And then another more professional one with, roller gauze, combine pads, maybe a space blanket to treat shock, stuff like that. More trauma-based. And I would definitely recommend getting at least a 4-person one, no matter how many people you have, because you're going to go through these things eventually, and you're going to definitely want to make sure that you have enough of what you need in your kits. Goes back to the old Army saying, 1 is none and 2 is 1. So you've got your basic first aid kit, you've got your other more slightly professional or industrial type of first aid kit with, things that you'll need and enough of what you need. The next thing I would recommend doing is going ahead and grabbing at least one bleeding control kit. And the nice thing about these bleeding control kits are, number one, a lot of them have detailed instructions, step-by-step, exactly what you need to do when you break the thing open. And another thing that's nice about it is if someone's really bleeding out, that's definitely a life-threatening emergency. So you're going to want to have in one place the supplies that you need, that you can just grab it. Oh, here's the bleeding control kit. Let's grab it, pop it open, use it. And it just saves a bunch of time from rooting around and saying, well, what do I need here? Can I remember to do this? It's just boom, step by step, treat it, get it under control. And usually in those, you'll have stuff like combat dressing, roller gauze, quick clot, probably a tourniquet. And these days, they're designed for a layman to use and bring that bleeding under control pretty quickly. Just realize that one kit's generally for one patient. So if you use that kit and then you have another patient you need to treat, that's it. So maybe buy two or three of those depending on how many people you have. If you want to go ahead and buy one for each person, that's not a bad idea depending on what the circumstances are and what your area of operations is. Now, after you've gone ahead and got your basic first aid kit, your more advanced first aid kit, your bleeding control kit, I would recommend stocking up on extra various supplies. Like you can get boxes of assorted sizes of band-aids, extra neosporin type cream, extra ice packs, rubber gloves for pretty cheap, which have a myriad of uses, and definitely grab an extra box of roller gauze as well. You can also go ahead and grab triangle bandages, stuff like that for very cheap. So you've got your medical supplies all set. You've got your kit A, kit B, you've got your bleeding control kit, you've got your extra various first aid essentials so that you might not even have to break into your kit, and you're all set up. What do you want to do next? Well, I would make sure that I put these things in a very easily accessible location. So you don't want it on the top shelf where you have to reach and grab a ladder to get it. You want it very accessible and readily handy. Realize that if you're going to have to go ahead and treat yourself or someone you care about, your adrenaline's going to be pumping like a motherfucker. So definitely make sure it's as stress and worry free as possible. Another type of kit you can get if you like, and I've seen these on the market but don't have much experience, is dental kits. And they make different kinds. They're obviously not meant for crazy dental work or anything like that, but they can be handy if you've got a sore tooth, or something happens and you need to actually just fix it for a while before you can get to a dentist, and maybe things are going to go back to normal. Definitely tooth pain sucks. Another thing that you can do as far as tooth pain is besides Ambisol or Oragel or something like that for pain relief, you can also use clove oil, I've heard. I haven't actually used this myself, but I know people who have and they swear by it. Another good thing about clove oil is it's very antiseptic, and it's just a good thing to have on hand anyways. Now, that brings me into essential oils. I'm not a huge proponent of being able to treat everything with fucking essential oils. I mean, we live in the 21st century and modern medicine can be a very good thing. But there are definitely very handy essential oils out there. Lavender is good. I've heard for blisters, and again, it's antiseptic and stuff like that. Frankincense oil is very soothing, and can be great in a stressful situation. They also make oils, and not necessarily just essential oils, but I know they do make, like Young Living makes Pan Away for muscle sprains and a sore back or a sore muscle, maybe a sprain your ankle, and you just need some relief there. Um, they also make Chinese healing oils and Tiger Balm and stuff like that. And those things are all great to have on hand because if you have a hurt muscle or something, that really helps. That helps bring it under control. I know from obviously doing a lot of martial arts that Tiger Balm can really be your best friend. The Muay Thai oil is good. That stuff to kind of work into your muscles, it really helps out. So don't be afraid to keep some of that on hand, icy hot or whatever. Also, Vicks is good. Like if somebody's got a cold, that can be very soothing as well. Jar of that in your first aid, supplies is definitely a solid option. Maybe a bottle of NyQuil, Dayquil, whatever. I don't personally use that stuff too much, but if you like it, then I would definitely keep an extra bottle around. Whatever you would usually use for a cold or whatever, definitely keep one more of it and just keep it in your supplies. But just make sure to rotate it and check the expiration dates, monthly, bi-monthly, whatever, because a lot of this stuff can, and does go bad. At least as far as the medications goes. It's just like your food preps and your water preps. You want to make sure you rotate it and check those expiration dates. Now, another thing that we can go ahead and do is grab low-dose aspirin. And, again, I'm not a doctor. Consult your physician. Absolutely do not take my advice, and this is not intended as medical advice. But, for somebody who has cardiac issues or whatever, as you already know, besides whatever medication you take, taking 4 low-dose aspirins, I've heard, can help with, helping yourself if you have a heart attack or whatever. Also taking, 1 low-dose aspirin per day or whatever. So, like I said, consult your physician. I'm not offering medical advice, but this is what people do, is to keep a bottle or two of those low-dose aspirin on hand. And, like I said, I believe the dose is around 4 low-dose aspirins. Chew them up, minimal water, and that can really help out in an emergency. it definitely thins your blood and allows it to travel through those arteries, which may or may not be constricted. Another thing that you can do is, I mean, if you are a type of person who suffers from cardiac issues or whatever, maybe you take nitroglycerin, or maybe you have asthma and you have an inhaler. I would definitely talk to your doctor. I would try to get an extra bottle of nitro or an extra inhaler or two or three, and just keep it in with those medical supplies dedicated solely to keeping there. Again, make sure to check the expiration dates. I certainly know with nitro, if it's expired, it becomes less potent, as does everything. But I would definitely recommend, look, maybe you take medication for whatever, anxiety, whatever it is. Now, there's a number of routes you can take here. If you are looking for medication, you can just go to your doctor and say, hey, blah, blah, blah. Look, just in case I want to keep an extra, prescription on hand or whatever. And more than likely he'll, write you something. And then another thing you can do is ask him to write you a doubly large prescription. And that way you have your normal prescription and take out however many medication, pills, whatever it is, and keep those in with your medical supplies, solely dedicated to, if you ever have to go without being able to fill a prescription or see your doctor or something like that. Another thing you might like to do is actually talk to your doctor and be honest and say, look, if a huge fucking storm comes through or we get invaded by the Chinese and I need to, get off the medication that I'm currently on, how would I go about doing it? And he might tell you, well, you do it this way and you cut back, half a pill or whatever. He'll tell you how to do it. And if he doesn't fucking tell you how to do it, then fuck him. Go online and research it yourself. Just have that. Maybe you can even write it down. Keep it with, the extra medication. Just in case you ever need to. Stopping it all of a sudden is never a good thing, depending on what the medication is for. But I would definitely know how to withdraw from it or how to detox from it the right way, just in case you ever had to. And other medications are different from other medications. It's all different. So just research it yourself if you are currently taking a prescription. Obviously, keep in mind, though, some medications you just need to take. Other medications, obviously it won't kill you if you do it the right way, but it might be pretty harmful if you try to detox the wrong way. Now, another thing that brings me into is antibiotics. I personally like to keep a small stash of them on hand, not only because I travel a lot, but also because you just never fucking know. So what you can do is, again, talk to your doctor. Maybe he's cool. Maybe he'll write you a script. Maybe you know somebody who can write you a couple of scripts. Obviously, there's different antibiotics for different things. Maybe you can't, for whatever reason, find a doctor or someone who can write you a script for a few different kinds. You can also, this is the 21st century, like I said, you can go online and there are ways to order this stuff online. Also, if you happen to travel out of the country, you can just do it that way. Most countries will sell antibiotics over the counter. If those options aren't working for you, I know that they do make antibiotics like for fish tanks and fish and stuff. They're definitely, the FDA and whatever says it's not for people, but I know it's the same exact product, just packaged differently, generally speaking. And assuming you know the right dose, which again, look it up online, then you're all set. Obviously those are for your fish, but, worst come to worst, I'm assuming, I'm not a doctor, but I'm assuming that if you take Cipro in the right dose for a human, even though, it's fish Cipro, you'll probably be okay. You can, again, look that up on YouTube. There's plenty of guys out there who will tell you how to do it, but just keep in mind that they are basically the same product, if not almost exactly the same product, just different dosing. And again, you can figure that out for yourself on the dosing. And another thing that might be handy to throw in with your antibiotics, no matter where you get them, is a list of which antibiotics treat which illnesses. You can get this online. I'm sure you can also buy a book somewhere with all the different antibiotics and what their uses are for different, illnesses and whatever. But I would certainly recommend that over just fucking trying to guess and taking shots in the dark. I would definitely either print out a list and keep it with your antibiotics or, get a book and keep that. Now, another thing, besides over-the-counter medications, besides prescription medications and antibiotics, is supplements. Now, if you supplement your vitamins and stuff the right way, your health is going to be way better. I discussed this in the previous video, section 1, but when you're especially under stressful times and whatever, supplementing with vitamins is going to be kind of essential because number one, you don't want to get sick, and number two, when you're stressed and when you're doing different things, dealing with a lot of different bullshit, your body's going to be using a lot more vitamins and amino acids and whatnot than it usually does, eating up its supply. So to supplement would be a really great idea. I would go ahead and keep adult multis. If you have kids multis, take one of those a day. I would definitely store up on C vitamins as well. The one thing I've heard about C is you kind of want to, if you can, avoid getting that stuff with absorbic acid. If it says from absorbic acid, I've heard that's not as potent as the stuff that's more natural and from fucking fruits and shit like that. So if you're not going to go ahead and store or take any other vitamins besides those, then those are the two that I would personally say that you're going to want to get and keep on hand. Now, when it comes to medications, there is a saying anti, right? So antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, antidiuretics, and antacids. They're all pretty helpful there. Another thing I talked about in the previous video was like Pedialyte or Gatorade or something for dehydration. That ties into the antidiuretics. You definitely don't want to be pooping out all your electrolytes and everything. So, but if you do get diarrhea, or even if you're just sweating a lot or whatever, having some extra electrolytes and stuff like that on hand is good. Another thing you can do is lemon juice and a pinch of sea salt in your water. Obviously, fresh lemon juice can be kind of difficult to store, but even just a pinch of sea salt. So sea salt's not a bad thing as well. Just make sure it's actual sea salt. Now, another thing that I kind of touched on was the essential oils, but this is kind of an alternative medicine thing. It really works though is oregano oil. If you feel something coming on, you can take however many drops, and you can just. A good tip is if on the sign of your first symptom or sign or symptom, go ahead and take a dose and take like 7 doses that day, 2 hours, however many apart. Do some research for yourself. But oregano oil is a real godsend. Another thing that is a real godsend, especially in the absence, of antibiotics, is colloidal silver. Now, you might have heard stuff about colloidal silver. You might have heard it's nonsense. It's not. It really does. It can certainly really work. It's not going to turn you blue unless you drink a shitload of it, but just do be careful with it. Do your due diligence, do your research on it. But having a bottle of that, you can get a big bottle of it and keep it on hand. It's not that expensive. Go ahead. My advice would be to invest in some of that. Especially in the absence of antibiotics, it can be quite helpful. One more thing I'll talk about here as far as like the medication type things is fiber. Fiber can be very helpful. I know people get plugged up. It just happens. And to have some Metamucil or whatever on hand is definitely a very good thing, especially if you're eating MREs or not getting enough fiber and you're not able to eat your fruits and veggies like usual or whatever. Fiber, Metamucil, whatever can be very, very handy. Whether you want to get it in the pills or the powder, that's kind of personal preference, up to you. They make flavored stuff, but I would definitely recommend some of that as well. Now, this is kind of going into hygiene now. I would definitely recommend not only keeping your personal hygiene in order, but your household hygiene. And that could potentially mean like getting a 5-gallon bucket with a toilet seat on it. Should the water not be working, toilet's not flushing, whatever. You don't want to spread disease, and you don't want, certainly flies or whatever from disease. So having a 5-gallon bucket, you can get stuff to treat the waste with. You can also go ahead and order, from different ready stores or whatever, their 5-gallon bucket toilets, and they'll give you this supplies to go ahead and be able to treat the waste. I would definitely recommend, either burying that waste or getting rid of it somehow like that. You don't want to let it sit around, and like I said, insects definitely breed disease, flies and stuff. So you don't want to let them get at it and spread it over your food. I know that's gross, but it's just the fact. So extra toilet paper certainly is a great option to go with your 5-gallon shitting bucket. Another thing is like extra toothbrushes, toothpaste, soap, bar soap, whatever is also great to have on hand. You can think about it this way: if your toilet's not working and your sinks aren't running, then your shower probably isn't running either. So maybe grabbing some cleansing wipes or whatever just to keep hygienic is probably a good idea as well. Maybe an extra stick of deodorant or whatever. So another thing just to touch on, we touched on the last video as well, but depending on where you live, I would recommend burning what you can of your trash. And the rest of it, I would recommend just getting rid of it one way or the other. You don't want to keep it around. If obviously shit's really going down or shit's not working too well, then what are you going to do? Expect the trash man to come? No. You're going to have to get rid of that trash, whether it's taking it to a dumpster, taking it to somewhere. Just get rid of it and don't keep it around because, again, that'll breed disease. It'll attract animals, depending on where you live. But just make sure that you get rid of your trash. And, like I said, if you have paper stuff, you can separate out the paper and everything burnable. If it's wintertime and you have a fireplace, great. Use it as kindling, use it to burn that shit, create a little extra heat. If you got a fire pit out back and you're living in more of a rural or suburban environment, great to burn the paper, whatever. But I would definitely have a plan to keep hygienic, get rid of your trash, get rid of your waste somehow, and you'll be good to go. Now, the last thing I'll touch on here, because this video is getting a little long already, is get as much sleep as you possibly can. And if you are in the military or, for example, me, I used to work on ships, so I know this firsthand, is sleep when you can. The more sleep that you get, the better. Obviously, the more sleep you get, the more your body's able to prepare itself both mentally and physically, and the better you're going to operate. But what guys have learned who've worked in stressful environments is whenever you can go ahead and safely grab some sleep, I would definitely recommend it. If that's sleeping for an hour here, then grabbing 5 hours here, then sleep a little while over here. Just the more sleep you get, the better you're going to operate, the sharper you're going to be, and the healthier your body is going to be. So definitely take care of yourself, take care of your body, take care of your family. I would definitely recommend to at least, think about what I said as far as the vitamins go, the first aid kit, get a little first aid training if you don't have any. And listen, I'm sure there's stuff I left out here. I'm not an expert by any means, but I do have a little bit of training. So I wanted to share some of my ideas with y'all. If you have any ideas of yourself, I'd really like to hear them. Please put them down in the comments below. I'm not going to bore you guys with a big advertisement from our websites on this one, but I will say if you can go ahead and subscribe and like the videos and comment, look, it will really help me out. I'm trying to kind of build up my YouTube channel. I really enjoy this stuff. I enjoy making the videos and talking about it with other people and whatnot. So until next time, please remember that you are your first and last line of defense, and stay safe out there.